Hey everybody, this is Final Flame Productions back with another Last of Us 2 video. Today we're going to have a discussion slash debate with a good friend of mine. He's a YouTuber as well called Rogtronic. You guys should check out his channel. He does Let's Plays and lots of other cool stuff. But today he's going to give his opinion on The Last of Us 2. And me and him are going to just discuss certain subjects and certain things about the game that we liked and disliked. Um, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion. And I'm just going to let Rogtronic start off the video and just give his general thoughts on maybe the first game and maybe his opening thoughts about Last of Us 2 as well. So I'll let Rog take it away.
Thanks, man, and thank you for having me on the channel. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I suppose as I said to you before the video, and I'd like to say it again, like I wanted to have a kind of respectful conversation around this topic because, as I explained already to you, I kind of removed myself from all the hype for this game because, like you, I absolutely adored the first game and probably one of the best games of the previous generation. So the hype for this sequel for me was huge, and I kind of blocked any kind of social media videos, YouTube, Twitter, the whole lot. And I know then coming back after finishing it, I saw that you had created a lot of content around it, and obviously, I couldn't completely ignore the kind of maybe negativity around it, but I had doing my best to ignore it. High level, I really enjoyed the game. Was it a perfect game? No. Was it as good as the first game? Definitely not. But I really like the world. I really like the production value in the game. I really like the setting, and then kind of seeing that world expanded was amazing for me. I think it's graphically a very good game, and then the different environments you move around in. I suppose final we have to maybe put a spoiler warning. I'm assuming we're going to talk spoilers here today.
Spoiler warning straight away. I think we're going to jump straight into spoilers. So if you haven't got to the game's pretty spoilery from the start, so there's going to be spoilers the whole way through, so just that's a warning for anybody.
I don't know, we didn't discuss this. So yeah, that was kind of like my high level thoughts. I don't know if you wanted more on it. I think do you mind me asking, did you finish the game? Did you complete it?
I'll be honest, I didn't. I
Okay.
have yet to finish it. It's like there's a lot of games I love that I haven't finished, and definitely the fact I wasn't enjoying this one, I'm not sure I will. But anyway, I am well aware of how the game ends, but yeah. Really, I wanted to start off. It probably might not. It might not fit in with Rogtronic. He can let me know. Just before we get into the actual game, everybody knows about the leaks of the game, which I've covered. I tried not to spoil it too much in terms of in my thumbnails and in my even with all the stuff going around. Like if people remember back when the game was being released. Before it was released, there was leaks, and a lot of YouTube channels were being struck down for talking about the leaks, not even showing the leaks, but talking about the leaks. So I want to get your thoughts on that, if you have any thoughts at all. As you said, you try to stay away from that stuff.
I appreciate you not, because I remember you producing some content, and I don't know why. I don't know why I clicked it. And I started watching like the first minute and a half of your video, and you didn't. And I was kind of like in this moment, when you watch those videos and you're like, oh, how much am I going to see here? I want to watch this content, but I don't want to watch it. And I was like, after about a minute and a half, 2 minutes of one of your first videos you made around, I was like, no, I can't, because you're not going to intentionally spoil it, but and you mentioned that in the videos, you said like, I'm not going to spoil it, but I didn't know what screenshot you might put up. I didn't know what news article.
Like, so you've said that from the outset that you try to stay away from all that stuff. So what is your thoughts on the Naughty Dog's response to this stuff, where they started to strike YouTube channels, small, big, for literally talking about it, even on a very vague basis? There's some channels that showed screenshots, leaked screenshots, where They should be strike down. They should be given warnings. But what do you think about Naughty Dog actually going after channels and striking them down for literally talking about the leaks?
Oh, to be honest with you, I can't agree with that kind of behavior. Like, if there was a legal reason for it, like if I don't know, I'll be honest with you, you talking about this is kind of the first I've really heard about it properly.
There's kind of like my channel, but a lot more. The channels were a lot more content centralized with Last of Us, and they had.
And the videos were deleted. Like the videos were
strikes down. People, I think people successfully counteracted those strikes, but just literally videos with no footage of any Naughty Dog material at all were strike down just for talking. So.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to like make you quote your sources here, but like they were definitely 100% from Naughty Dog, those strikes.
Yeah, it was. I forget now. I'm sure somebody in the comment section will know. It was.
We probably should have done this a bit closer to the time.
I think it was Mutual Limited, but people looked into that and they were. I think they were on the behalf of Naughty Dog, because when if you've ever got a strike on your channel, it doesn't always come from specifically from a place you would know of. There's all these different people, but yeah, that's just something. I think that's something that generally, probably even Naughty Dog themselves probably regret, because I can kind of understand the idea behind it, that they wanted to. They were pissed off that all this stuff was leaking and they wanted to shut it down, but you can't shut down people having conversations.
No, I would agree with that.
But another thing, before we get into the thing again, did you see the controversial trailer? Did you see many of the trailers going into the game? There was a trailer where they, I'm not sure what was it, was it Comic-Con or was it one of those things? I'm not sure. Again, I should know this, but they released a big trailer, and at the end of the trailer, we see the reveal of Joel, the first time we really see him speaking, and this was the end of the trailer, and this got a great reaction from fans. This was, I don't know how long before the release of the game, several months before, and it turned out, I don't know, do you remember the part in the game where, what do you call the...
I think I know. Is it who? Yes, I think I know the exact. And actually, this is one of those moments that I think, yourself, you do your best to avoid spoilers, you do your best to avoid Twitter, but sometimes you just can't help but see an image. And I think I did know this moment when it happened in the game. It's kind of Jesse grabs Ellie on the shoulder, and that. So you're saying that used to be Joel, or that was in the trailers? It was Joel.
Yeah, in the trailer, it was Joel that grabs Ellie's mouth, and that was, as anybody that likes The Last of Us, that was a big moment. And in fair enough, whatever happens to Joel in the game, people at least expected that scene, that moment to some way exist. And they even admitted after the release of the game that they put that in to mislead people, which I think is... and obviously they had to do a specific voice because he speaks in it as well. So what's your thoughts on that? I know I'm sort of... These are quite negative questions to start with, but this is how the game was. If you try to get an understanding of if you like or dislike the game, or if you're coming from it from completely neutral approach of why there was such a toxic kind of hectic response to the game. So just get your thoughts on that.
Star Wars did the same, correct me if I'm wrong. They had moments in the trailers that never actually appeared in the films.
Yeah, quite a few.
I look, to be honest with you, I'm probably the wrong person to have this specific conversation with, because I avoided all of this.
Well,
I was quite blank going into the game.
Maybe if I phrase it a different way, because you are right. Movies like Avengers, I'm sure loads of other big budget movies, they kind of bait and switch characters and scenes. And the trailers kind of edit around. But the thing about this is that we, having played the game and know the ending and know what happens to Joel, it kind of it pissed people off more, because had Joel been in the whole game and this was just some scene that they deleted or didn't use, people go, who cares? But it's kind of like it's kind of like saying, oh well, Luke Skywalker is going to have a big part in this movie, but and filming this great big scene with him, but then replacing him with some little small character that isn't really as loved.
Yeah. Look, I'll probably be corrected in comments and stuff like that, but if like the way the movie industry works in trailers, it's a completely separate company that cuts and edits trailers for the most part. Like their jobs are to just like generate hype, and their jobs are to put the big wah noise over like the key points. So I could be wrong. Is the games industry the same way, where it's a separate company that cuts and edits trailers?
I imagine they probably have people that specialize in it, but I think what makes this still something that pisses off people is that Neil Druckmann, the guy who what is
game
he?
Director.
Game director,
or one of the game directors. I'm pretty sure.
He offered the information that he actually was a part of recording. Was it who voiced Joel again? His name escapes me.
Troy Baker.
Troy Baker, sorry. So again, I think that sort of, you get the impression he had a big part of it. But anyway, it's something that pissed off people. But anyway, we'll get on to the elephant in the room. Just flat out killing Joel. Good, bad. Is it something? Did it piss you off?
I was so upset. I was like, as I was playing the game and it happened, like, I don't know. I'm not sure how much you've played of the game, but the scene where they run into Abby's group, and at first it's a case of like they're kind of on the same side, and then they realize, I think Joel says his name out loud or says himself, and they all realize this is the guy they've been looking for, and they beat the shit out of him, and they hit Tommy. I don't know. One thing that The Last of Us, both games do, is make you like sit up and pay attention to the scenes. Like they're so visceral and so brutal that not many games do that, where like you genuinely have like, I personally don't have like many like teary-eyed moments or like sit up and oh fuck moments in games, but The Last of Us did that to me, and that specific scene where Abby like bashes his skull in, and you're like, he's not surviving that. It's not one of those like cut to black and is he alive or not alive kind of thing. It's no, he's definitely dead. He just took a golf club to the head, or what, a golf club or a baseball bat, I can't remember which.
Golf club.
So was I happy? Absolutely not. Did I accept it as part of the story? Yes. Like, it's their story to tell. They can do whatever the fuck they want with their characters. We can be unhappy about it, and we can say we don't like that decision. But ultimately, in my personal opinion, it's the artist, it's the creator's decision to do whatever the fuck they want with the stories and the characters that they write.
Yeah, I think that's the main difference between people that accepted the game and enjoyed it most of the way through is, how did you react to that part of the game? For me, I think had that scene happened the way it happened, I have problems with the kind of, maybe there's a big discussion about would Joel and his brother offer their names so freely to people they don't know, all that type of stuff. That kind of stuff I don't nitpick too much. Like I know a lot of people watch shows and movies, they nitpick every little decision and logic thing.
I think what gets like plot holes versus human decisions in the world are it's a really philosophical debate. People make mistakes all the time, and I think we hold characters decisions in higher standards than our own. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it wouldn't be an argument I'd be too strong in it. Like, I didn't think that was the main issue. I think that happening that early in the game, the fact you don't get to play as Joel, you get to play him for like a couple of seconds at the start, don't you? But I think that was the part that annoyed me. Like, my general thoughts on the second game is that when the first game came out, was it 2012? Something like that. I might be wrong.
Sounds about right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe
We
a little
won't split
bit.
hairs around that time.
Yeah.
8 years ago. Yeah, that
I
sounds about
mean,
right.
from that time and until the release of this game, the selling part of that game, I think most people would agree. Well, of course, the gameplay, the world itself, all that stuff, zombies, people like zombies, or whatever you want to call them. But the selling point of that
Yeah,
game is the two characters, Joel,
yeah.
Ellie, the way the characters, they like each other, they hate each other moments. It's like a buddy cop. It's not a buddy cop, of course, but that sort of thing. That the whole
Yeah, I
thing
get it. Yeah.
works because of those two characters. So to break them up is one thing. To not give them any satisfying. I know that there is a lot of moments that I guess they probably felt like the final shots of the game, and they do have flashbacks and stuff that I'm sure they felt, well, we've killed off Joel, but we're going to give these moments as well.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was strong enough for me. I think my problem with the game is if you're going to kill Joel, it probably had to happen in the last third of the game at least, because once
Yeah.
they killed him there, and then on top of that, the way they did it, for me that, and I think a lot of people. There's a video. I'm not sure if you've seen the video. It's really funny. It's this streamer. He literally sees that happen. He takes the disc out of the PlayStation. I think it's a PlayStation. He gets his scissors and cuts it straight after that. It's really well done. Like you can tell he's pissed off, but it's like a skit or something. He literally cuts it. But and I know some people go like 2020. There's lots of other things people be worrying about. But I think people do like in isolation. People do get invested characters. People get pissed off.
I agree, and I understand
Yeah.
if you're upset. Like I don't get me wrong here. I was not happy when Joel was killed. I was like devastated. Like I genuinely, the guy I text. I'm on a WhatsApp group with a few friends, and I didn't text the group because that would have been a spoiler. I text one of the guys who I'd known had completed it, like a teary faced emoji, and like what the fuck, I was like. Because I was lucky enough to have not had this moment spoiled for me.
Right.
I fully expected Joel to die, like
Yeah.
you. I fully expected Joel to die in the last third.
Yeah.
Admitting to Ellie, what he did, and it becoming a huge thing, and blah blah blah. So I can appreciate people being upset, but I have a question for you.
Right.
Is that upsetting enough for generating hours of vitriol online? Does it justify hours of vitriol? No, I'm not saying that you generated hours. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm aware of the hate and the vitriol that was generated online.
Well,
I have very little time for that, and I just, as
know,
I said
when
earlier,
you-
I don't
yeah.
think. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So when you say vitriol, you're sort of referring to people. Are you talking about just general opinions, or are you talking about attacking voice actors, all that sort of nonsense?
The second one.
Yeah, well, if you looked into my videos, that like they're really, I'm extremely negative and extremely hard on the game, but at no point do I use expletives or kind of curse words towards anybody. I don't even name people all that often. Well, I do name people, but I don't. I think people. There's a lot of channels that people would just like. Since I dislike the game, people probably think, oh well, you probably like all those channels. There's a lot of channels that just throw. They start getting into politics and they start to talking about all this different stuff about why the game's like this. They start talking about female leads, good, bad, and different. They start talking about gender, politics, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Literally, my hatred for the game was story related. It was how they treated the characters. All that other stuff, I would agree, is just lame. And I think you can go through any of my videos. If you find anything like that, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry. And let me clarify that statement. That wasn't directed at you.
Yeah.
That was more directed at
Yeah.
the web in general. Around.
And there's a lot of that stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's But I did make a video saying, and I don't know whether you would agree with it, is that sometimes, like Star Wars,
Star Wars is a whole other debate.
yeah,
We could start a whole new series on that.
yeah. But yeah, like there's people tend to lump a whole fan base in with a certain small kind of very loud group of people who start attacking, Daisy Ridley, or start obsessing and attacking John Boyega, and really most people that dislike those Star Wars movies and dislike Last of Us 2 are just people that thought that the story and whatever else they disliked, but it was just lame, and they're generally not that bad of people, but there definitely is, there's no point denying it, a lot of idiots who don't have very intelligent opinions.
Look, people are entitled to disagree. People are entitled to not like works of art. I would, everything is up for debate. Like, art is subjective, and there will always be people who like certain things and certain people who like something. But when that devolves into, like, death threats and personal attacks on people's families and stuff, I think it just delegitimizes your arguments. It just devalues anything you've had to say up until that point.
There's a lot,
and I'm sure you would agree with that, like that sentiment.
Yeah, literally all my videos are obsessing over plot, writing. Like I refer back to stuff like Star Wars, Terminator. I'm not sure if you follow the Terminator sequels that closely. They sort of true big characters like John Connor, Sarah Connor. I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen them, but they.
I haven't seen the latest one. No, I haven't seen the latest one.
Big characters like that have been treated similarly, and whether they've been kind of sidelined or worse. So that's sort of generally I come from, but. The other big elephant.
Can I make a point there then? Now again, I haven't seen the latest Terminator. I assume it's awful. Like, I don't think Terminator's been particularly good since the second one, but that's my personal opinion. But you mentioned they're sidelining certain characters, because that's obviously a big bugbear with a lot of people, and sidelining Joel is a big reason for a lot of people not joining this. But can you not agree, or not even agree, not that you're disagreeing, but like, Joel's story was kind of told. Like, Joel is in his 50s or whatever, 40s, late 40s, early 50s, probably in the second one.
Something like that, yeah.
Like, Joel's story has been told. Now, okay, there's, you can always write more for him, but surely the point of a sequel is to kind of expand. Like, if we were just going to play Joel and Ellie again for another 8 to 10 hours, I don't know. I kind of like, what's the point? Like, why would I just play the same game twice?
I think I would definitely agree with you, but I think that's where probably a lot of people's problems is that they felt there was a lot more to explore. I personally think
you could probably write, like, you could write 10 more games with just Joel and Ellie, but I suppose as a creator, you've got to be like, well, do I want to write 10 more games with just Joel and Ellie, or do I want to, like, again, I think we've kind of moved off the topic, but killing Joel early in the game, I was fucking not happy about it. Let's be honest, I was fucking devastated. Did that make me want to, like, take the disc out and cut it in half and walk away? Absolutely not.
Okay, the other big elephant in the room, I have two questions about her. Abby, first of all, did you like the character of Abby, and the idea of playing as her, was that a good move? For me, I'll just give my quick opinion. I dislike the character because of...
I'm conscious that you have a video, and I think the literal title is Abby the worst game character ever? Like, I didn't watch it because I wanted to talk to you. I knew this was we were going to talk about.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of it's a clickbaity title, because she probably isn't the worst character. She isn't the worst character, but she is probably the most ill-judged character, because I personally didn't like her, but I thought she possibly could have been a great character. the idea of playing her, I think, was the biggest mistake, because when she does what she does to Joel, straight away, people have no interest. Well, I'm generally saying this. No matter how much they wanted to make you sympathize with her, people had no. Most people, maybe that's again generalizing, but most people just checked out and said, right, if I'm going to play this game, it better be tracking her down and killing her, and we're going to get to the ending at the later. But, you know, to make you play as that character, it sounds kind of like a ballsy move, but if it was a movie, it might make some sense, because you're like, okay, if you watch plenty of Netflix shows, like if you watch, comes in my head here, Daredevil, Kingpin is a prick of a character, but you spend a lot of time with him, and you don't like him, but he's interesting. But if you actually are forced in a game to play as a character, and they, in my opinion, they do a bad job of trying to get you around to sympathizing and maybe somehow liking her. I thought that was a really bad move. So when they did that, for me, it felt like...
Why is it a bad move, though? I don't understand. How is it different?
Playing a game, for me, you're in control of that character. You have to spend a long time with that character. You have to help them out. Like there's a lot of compilations of people just letting the character of Abby just fall off cliffs or get eaten by zombies, because they just they're just like, I don't like this person. You know, that's the problem. It's like, if you're in control of what you're doing, you're like, why am I doing this? Like, if this was a DLC, you wouldn't download it. I'll get your opinion.
I think you're making a lot of sweeping statements that probably doesn't account for the most of the people that played this game.
Okay, I'll let you pull me up on those. Let me know what you think.
I wonder what the sales statistics versus like the completion statistics are.
You see, that's the sales is kind of a red herring, because if you think the game sold well, which meant all those people enjoyed it. I mean, I have told you about the guy who cut up the disc. You know, look, I'm not saying everybody cut up their disc.
Look, hold on now. There will always be people who make big, bold statements like that when it comes to certain games and movies and stuff. But are you telling me that like 50% of the people that bought The Last of Us didn't enjoy it, didn't know what they were getting themselves into, and didn't finish it?
I would argue probably more than 50%. I've seen a lot of streamers. I mean, that's all I can gauge it on.
But let's be honest now. You have a certain mindset about this game. So the certain streamers that you're watching and the content that you're consuming.
I mean, I don't watch. Is it PewDiePie? But I've seen people. I've been on Reddit. People put clips up of him. He literally went into the game not knowing what the hell. Like, I don't follow his channel, but he was generally flabbergasted and pissed off most of the way through. Angry Joe, as you can imagine, was really pissed off. There's a lot more to go by. Again, statistically, knowing how many people hated it, loved it, it's hard to know. But I'll get your thoughts anyway on Abby and playing as her. Was that a good move?
I kind of like slash hate when games or TV shows or movies make us sympathetic for the bad guy. But I think my kind of debate here, or my main point would be like, Joel is the bad guy, if that makes sense. I think
wrong.
Like, how did you feel about Joel at the end of The Last of Us?
To me, yeah.
Did you think Joel was the good guy? Like, what did you think of Joel's decision at the end of The Last of Us?
His decision, because you loved him the whole way through.
Yeah.
Right? What he did. It's the thing about that is that I personally, everybody that's playing that game says, again, I'm sweeping statements. I think most people deep down.
I want there to be like a tracker in the bottom right-hand corner of every time you say everybody thinks this way, and it's, you know, I would strongly debate that everybody. But go on anyway.
I think generally, okay. All right. I'll say I thought when I
there
played
is a certain percentage.
Yeah, when I played the game, I knew for a fact the right thing to do or the sort of the just kind of thing was to let them do what they're doing to Abby. In my heart, I was like,
Yeah, you mean Ellie?
get her out of there. The idea what people would try to suggest he was a villain at the end or was a bad guy, I'd be like, nope. I mean, it's sort of like you look at he's a conflicted hero. He's a guy he's kind of like the Punisher. I mean, I always refer back. I love the Punisher or any of those characters that they're not clean cut Captain America people.
Yeah,
they do a lot of things that probably are way off the base, but
the ends justify the means kind of characters.
Not even that. You see where they're coming at least, even if you don't fully agree. You can see where they're coming from.
They're characters that make you feel something for them, despite you knowing what they're doing or what they have done is potentially not right. Which I think you're agreeing with me, and you could apply the same logic to Abby here.
And that's why I definitely agree that she could have been a great character, but the manner in which they introduce her, her doing what she did to Joel, as I said, how does she even know it is Joel? Which was kind of another point of probably bad writing, that he just says Joel and people are like, is she killing everybody she meets called Joel? You know.
Yeah, I can't remember that scene specifically. How does his name come up, or how does?
Well, that was what I was saying earlier.
Or something. I can't remember.
Tommy or Joel offers the names just once they go into the room with characters, and then everything goes quiet, and then they just start attacking them. And you know, that's a character that we knew nothing about. About 40, 50 minutes into the game, is it more or less? I can't remember. You know, they alienate you straight away with the character. Had she did that maybe 3/4 of the way through the game to Joel, and had we known all we knew about her beforehand, it could have been a completely different ball game. But that's how they wanted to deliver it. So for me,
would you have, if the similar scene had happened halfway through the game, maybe 2/3, would you have said, okay, The Last of Us 2 is not a terrible game?
I personally think that I personally wouldn't have. I don't know. It's very hard to know.
I know it's a hard one. And just to go back on the point you made there, like I'm not sure I think Joel is the bad guy. I'm sorry, I wasn't. That's not my stance. But I think the point that both games have made is that there are no bad guys really, like hardcore, outside of maybe the cannibal guy in the first game, you know, who whatever, eating humans. But I think the point is that, like, we're probably going to cover it like several times, is that like the bad guys and the good guys, I think, shift places like 5 or 6 times in this game. Like when you swap so did I like Abby, I suppose, was your original question. I don't think I hated her as much as people hated her. Did I like her by the end of the show? I don't know if I liked her, but I understood her perspective. Like, Joel killed her father, who was operating on this girl who potentially could have cured the virus. I think if you or I were in Abby's shoes, we would have done the exact same things.
I think what's interesting about the second game is that they try to kind of have their cake and eat it, because that scene, people have, I mean, you could say it's a difference of graphics in the two games, but that scene where Ellie has been traded on at the end of the first game, and you see Abby's father, the place that they're in looks completely different in the flashbacks in the second game. It looks a lot more cleaner. Her father looks way different. So if you look back then to that first game, that was a kind of real dingy, kind of grotty place that looked really kind of. If you look back, you kind of think, would those people really have found a cure? And are they just going to kill it? Like, people are looking back now thinking Joel was bloody right, because that place looked a bit dodgy, and they're probably just killing her for the crack of it, or not for the crack of it.
Hold on a second. That's sounds a bit like retconning your opinion based on like the
Well,
graphics of a
yeah,
age-old
but if
game.
you look at the second game, they make his character look a lot less weird looking, and the place that he's in looks completely different,
Well,
and
I would
it's
imagine, again, I would imagine like 8 years ago, they didn't know there was going to be a sequel 8 years in the
yeah,
future. And that was not potentially part, like,
yeah.
I would have been happy if they never released a sequel to. I think most people would have been like happy if this game never got a sequel.
They are now. There would be now after.
Well, yeah,
I,
if they could have, if they were
if,
given the choice again, there's a
well, if you
lot of people that
disliked
would.
it, you wouldn't anyway. But yeah, again, that's probably nitpicking. But
I think, I'll be honest with you, I would have to like, that's strongly like retconning your, in my opinion, that's like retconning your opinion on a decision made 8 years ago when there was no decision to make a sequel. So you would have to go back and go, okay, well, what were potentially maybe it was the wrong decision to have the story around, them going into a room that we had seen before. Again, we're talking about something that we weren't in the room for when that decision was made.
yeah, um, it's interesting that I think if they make a third game, it'll be very interesting to see if they want to pursue her character even more. I can imagine. Abby, yeah.
Yeah, I would almost suggest that they pursue like Lev's character or something like that.
Yeah.
It strikes me as a kind of world like I personally I like moving on from character, like I like being in the same world. I like seeing different stories in the same world, if that makes sense. It's not like
Yeah.
Kratos or something like that. Obviously, if they made a God of War game and Kratos wasn't the star, I'd be a little bit upset. But again, that would be their creative decision, and I wouldn't start screaming about. I would be unhappy, put it that way. But
Yeah. Okay. What the ending of the game?
I have to think for
Ellie,
a second.
Ellie, the whole way through, Ellie has been pursuing Abby, and she doesn't get her at the end. She doesn't. So she does get her, but she doesn't kill her. What was your thoughts on that? It pissed off a lot of people. People thought it was a cop out, but what did you think?
I can see why people would think it. Like again, it's so subjective. I was like, I understand why. What I was trying to think, there was a movie that did the exact same, or a. I think it's fairly obvious. The lesson is she's learned that revenge just doesn't pay, and it's just a cycle, because that's the moment she has when she's standing over Abby and she's drowning her, and she's like, well, I can kill her right here and now, and then she doesn't kill her. Like, I think to me it's pretty obvious the reason she doesn't kill her is like, okay, she's realized that this revenge is just a cycle, and she's now the villain. I'd also argue that Abby has clearly suffered, extensively in the months that it's taken for her to find them.
Yeah.
I can completely understand if you were like, oh, I really wanted to kill Abby and I didn't get to kill Abby, and that pissed you off. I
Yeah.
can understand that perspective as well.
Yeah, I feel like the entire game, like from the killing of Joel, playing as Abby, not getting to kill Abby, beating up Ellie as Joel or as Abby, it just feels like every decision they made was to be shock worthy, to piss people off. Like they even admitted, they said when they released the game, I think it was Neil Druckmann said that they knew the game was going to piss people off, and they knew it was going to divide people, and they were happy to do that. I just feel like you talked earlier about your response. Like most people's response to Joel's death was either really emotional, crying, or pure anger, or whatever. I think that
isn't that good art though? Isn't that like good art? Like when you talk
yeah,
about him, like,
that's my
he
point
knew
though.
it pissed you off.
I mean,
That's good art. He's like, this is gonna set. If you release something that's vanilla and nobody gives a shit about, well then surely that's even worse.
I think that would be my argument, is that, I mean, of course, a controversial kind of gut punch, kind of very heart wrenching scene can be great, but I think in this case, it was shock value. It was that, it isn't always the right idea. And for me, just because they knew it was going to shock people and be a talking point, I don't think it was the right idea. And the way they did it, literally, Joel doesn't get to fight back. He just gets thumped with a big golf club. I didn't find it very compelling, and I think just because its shock value is kind of getting overrated. Like if you watch lots of seasons of The Walking Dead, it's just depression and just dread.
I
and
stopped watching that after like 3 seasons, and I actually read some of the graphic novels, and there was like a rape scene in one of the graphic novels, and I was like, nope, that's enough of that for me, thank you.
It's like, well, like it's like, I mean, of course, like having a happy Hollywood ending in every movie isn't great, but if there's zero moments of, and of course The Last of Us 2 has a few moments of kind of nice, kind of like the spaceship scene.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was amazing. The soundtrack that he puts in your ears.
I mean that there is magic in a bottle, but I think it further backs up my point that the heart of this game is the two of them, and when the two of them are together, or at least the idea that the two of them maybe at the end of the game would clash again and maybe join up and help each other out. There was so much to do with those two characters, and for me, the Abby stuff, like you've got new characters that they bring in, just it reminds you of those later seasons of a TV show that you really don't like, where they sideline one of your favorite characters and they bring in all these other characters, and it's like, we don't care about these. And like for me, the ending
Misfits?
was, what's that, sorry?
Misfits, TV show called Misfits.
I remember it. I don't think I've ever watched it all that much though.
It's all about these teenagers who get superpowers, and after like season 3, they essentially replaced the entire cast, and I was like, "Fuck this noise, I'm out." Sorry, am I allowed to swear on this? Haven't I?
I think so.
45 minutes in, yes.
So yeah, the ending for me, it just further backed up that I just wasn't on side with a lot of the decisions they made. But again, that's just opinion.
And I think that's something to take away from a lot of this, is that your opinion is 100% valid. Like, we could have this exact same conversation around Game of Thrones, around Star Wars, around pretty much any like contemporary fantasy media in the last 10 years. Like, but I think my kind of main takeaway is that, did it deserve? These decisions are made by creative people, and games are kind of weird in some ways, in that there are so many like hands in the pot when it comes to making games.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you have your game directors and you have like your actors and stuff like that, but sometimes like technical limitations probably mean that, okay, we can't go with this story beat because we either can't make it or we can't shoot it, or it's not like making a film. So I often feel that like games are like the sum of, like, I know movies are the sum of lots of people's parts, but oftentimes it's like a writer and a director, and they basically like, coerce everybody together in the story that they want to tell. But games potentially don't have that luxury because, okay, there are like auteur directors like, Cory Barlog from God of War, or Hideo Kojima, from Metal Gear Solid and stuff like that. But I just feel that we've gone away from the original point here. I think the original question was like, did I like Abby? And that was like 25 minutes ago. But I think my point here is that, like, I don't think this game is so bad that it deserved thousands of hours of hate. Like, it's quite clearly a very well put together game, and an incredibly like visually impressive, mechanically impressive game. And then to get like review bombed and like said it's a 1 or a 2 because people are unhappy that Joel died early, I think is a disservice to the game itself.
Yeah, I think if it was any other game, I would probably agree more with you. But I think this is such a narrative and character driven franchise. Like Joel and Ellie, as I said before, they're kind of like, you can put all the bells and whistles, but those are the things that sold this game. They're the things that people loved about the first game. Like, if this was any other game, like if you make another Grand Theft Auto, or if you make whatever game you want to talk about, the characters aren't so much the most important part. The story isn't the most important part. The gameplay and stuff like that is way up the list. And then the gameplay and the visuals, as you said, are terrific in The Last of Us 2. But it's not that it's a disservice, I think, that people are crapping on it. It's more that the people that were in charge of treating these characters that we love in this world that we are so interested in, they let their part down, so that all the rest
but
of it, like,
they're characters. Like,
yeah.
they can do whatever they want.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem with a lot of franchises, is that the people making them feel they can do anything they want with them, and of course they can do anything they want with them. But was there nobody in there that said, you know what, this is going to go beyond the point of dividing people. It's going to completely ruin a franchise. Pretty much, I think.
But then, do you create art just to please people? Do you create?
Again,
like?
I know what you're saying. You can't make a story and just go, well, we've got to make sure this makes everybody happy all the time. But as I said, the way they structured is that you're about an hour into it. There's going to be a big portion of people that just check out. Like, even if people have finished the game and streamed it, big streamers, you could see that when that Joel moment happened, they kind of checked out for a good portion of it, and they were kind of playing it like they were just playing some sort of hack and slash game. They weren't invested anymore, and there were people like they were trying to make Abby sympathetic and get us to know, and they're like, nope. And again, that's down to people. You probably were on board with it more, but
Can I put my little cynical hat on here? That to me sounds like pandering to a certain crowd of people who they know will enjoy getting hatred on Abby. Like, they know that the kind of, I don't know, it's easier to shit on things, and it's easier to get clicks and likes when you shit on things.
So you think? So sorry, what you mean? People, streamers that?
Well, look, people. I can imagine people didn't enjoy it, and then, potentially, yeah. When Joel, I don't disagree with you that certain amount of people would have checked out, like when Joel died. I was still eager to learn more about the story, about the world. As I said, maybe my enjoyment of the game wasn't solely tied to Joel and Ellie's story. It was a key part of, obviously, the first game, but I was very conscious I was playing a different game and wanted to understand the story that was being told, and then seeing the different factions of people. Like when we visit Abby's sort of hometown, and it's in that football stadium, and you see like the agriculture, and you see them growing, inside the stadium, and the world that they've built for themselves. I was amazed and fascinated. I was like, wow, imagine this was like real life. Imagine this is what we went and did. And then seeing Lev's community of people, like, who are like, almost regressed historically. I don't know. I just really enjoyed experiencing those, like, the different cultures in the Last of Us universe. While also like tracking Ellie's revenge mission. And then the bit where you become Abby and Ellie is the bad guy. Ellie, the boss fight. I don't know if you played this part where Ellie is the boss and you have to fight against her, and you're like, well, I know all of Ellie's moves because I've played as her. That kind of role reversal, I thought that was a really cool game mechanic. I think the game went on too long. I'm not sure how long. We've been talking for 53 minutes, and honestly, man, I could talk to you for 3 hours about this. Just want to get that across. I think the game went on too long. I think the game could have ended like 3 or 4 hours earlier.
Yeah.
We could have got to the point where Ellie found Abby, crucified or whatever, 3 or 4 hours earlier. I definitely thought the game was going to end multiple times. It kind of reminded me of The Witcher 3. Again, well, I won't spoil The Witcher 3, but I feel like the end of The Witcher 3 could have ended like 3 or 4 times and just kept going.
Right.
Still a phenomenal game, though.
Yeah, again, that moment where Abby beats up Ellie, for me was just like, what are they doing? Like on paper, it's kind of like probably like, oh, this is gonna be different. Like you're beating up this character, but for me, to take control of Abby is like, and making her a big character. That's one thing. Having a big part of the game where you beat the hell out of her and try to kill your favorite character from the first game or your second, whatever. I just thought that was an insane decision. It's like they're just doing this. They're just doing that to mess with people.
Are they going? Oh my God, they're going to make me kill Ellie, aren't they? They're going to make me kill Ellie. Like I think the point that I like in good movies and good games, they make me feel something. Like there's nothing worse than sitting through a movie and you don't laugh when there's a joke, or you don't jump when there's a scare, or you don't feel emotion when something comes up on screen. I'm like, well, that's me personally, it's bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Last of Us was really good at making me go, oh shit, I have to do this thing now. Like even when Joel broke into the room with Ellie at the end of the first game, I was like, oh crap, I have to mow down all these doctors. Like there was a moment where I just sort of stood back and I was like, I wonder what happens if I don't shoot them. I don't want to shoot these doctors. Like these are just innocents. But I had to kill them to progress the game.
Again, I'm going to pull you up on it. Are they really innocent? They beat the hell out of Joel, didn't they, at the end of at the end of Last of Us, and then they...
No, they only beat the hell out of him when he realized what they were going to do to Ellie, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not defending their actions, by the way.
Yeah.
But they were just like civilian doctors, okay? Yeah. They're not like soldiers with guns. But could Joel just have pushed them out of the way, picked up Ellie and walked out of the room? Probably. But you were forced to murder them all.
Were you forced to murder them all?
I think, well, obviously, Abby's dad.
Yeah.
You definitely had to kill him to get out of the way. Maybe you didn't need to kill them all. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong in that.
I could be wrong also. I think you might only have had to kill him. I could be wrong though. But again, that was supposed to be a controversial moment. And as you say, you enjoyed those controversial moments, and I can understand and I can get. I do love moments in TV shows where they do something you're like, what the hell's going on here? Like it just from left field. It's like, they've made it. I just think the problem with this game is, I've kind of said before, so much of what they did throughout the game, too much of it was, you kind of like The Walking Dead. You've got to give people, I know you said you don't want to pander to people and give people everything they want, but it's kind of like wrestling as well. If in WWE at the moment, when people are begging for a wrestler to get the world title or to win a match, they always in the recent years they've always got, let's not give them what they want, let's do the opposite. Of course, you don't have to pander to people, but you have to give them moments like the spaceship bit where people are just like, yes, this is brilliant. This is why we loved the first game. And then like the first game had a lot of crazy shit going on, but you had that, like, if like you look back to that first game, you know the part where the guy in the middle of the road is letting on he's injured, and Ellie's like, doesn't she say something like, oh, we better get out to see is he okay, or something like that, and Joel goes, there's nothing wrong with him, and he just mows him down. Your man pulls out the gun. Like that there is like, there was very little of that in the second game. We were like, yes, just those moments of, as you say, crowd pleasing shouldn't be what they're doing all the time, but you got to give moments like that make people go, it just, I
want to clarify, like, I don't think the second game is as good as the first game.
Yeah.
I think the first game came along at a time when we'd never seen a game like that before, or I personally really hadn't played a game like that. Like The Walking Dead existed at that point, but it was more of a point and click adventure. This was like a realized post-apocalyptic, very gritty, almost believable future for humankind, if that makes sense. And I think that's why it resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't think the second game captured the magic again.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, obviously I'm personally happy that there was a second game and I got to play through it and I've enjoyed it. I don't know if I would replay the second. I replayed the first one to get myself ready for this one, but I don't personally think I would replay the second one.
Yeah.
Does that make it a bad game? Absolutely not.
I think that's a good point. I think there's a lot of movies, a lot of shows that I enjoyed, and it was a really visceral experience. But I wouldn't watch them again. But again, that doesn't mean they're bad. I think it does show the difference between the two games, though. The first one,
100%. I do not. I will go on the record. You can't see me right now, but I have my hand in the air. I'm going to go on the record and say that The Last of Us 2 is not as good a game as The Last of Us 1.
Yeah.
But is it a 3 or a 4? Absolutely not. And I think if you think it is, I'm just going to disagree with you. That's all I would say.
I think,
I'm not saying you personally think it's a 3 or 4. I'm just saying if your opinion is this game is trash and nobody should ever play it, I think you've missed a lot of like the point of the game. Actually, sorry, I know we're like an hour in and I appreciate the time we've spent. But one question for you is the leaks. Now, I successfully avoided those. I made it my business to not find a title, turn off news media sites that I would normally read. Did you actively seek out the leaks and go and read them?
I didn't actively. I think when I seen the Joel one fairly early on, and that was like the peak of the leaks. So once I knew that,
can I ask you then, why would you do that to yourself?
Why would I?
I'm always curious to know of people who enjoy franchises. Again, I'm going to send you this video afterwards, and maybe you'll put it on the channel, maybe you won't. But if anyone can see me right now, I have a picture of the Hulk over my right shoulder. The Hulk is one of my favorite Marvel characters,
right?
And I always go back to. Do you remember the Thor Ragnarok movie?
I didn't actually see that one, but I know of it. Yeah.
Okay, but you might be familiar with one of the trailers that came out beforehand, where Thor is fighting in a sort of arena, and a door bursts open, and the Hulk bursts out, and the Thor kind of cheers and goes, "Oh, he's a friend from work."
Yeah,
and it's a really funny moment. Like, you're probably familiar with that trailer.
Yeah,
right?
I know that part.
You've probably seen that scene.
Yeah,
that is the fucking worst spoiler in that whole movie, in my personal opinion, and they put it in the fucking trailer. Like, if that's not a sign that some other separate company makes trailers to sell tickets, then nothing is. And that's my personal philosophy when it comes to franchises and games and things that I like. I will literally close my eyes and block my ears whenever I see a trailer or a spoiler.
Yeah.
And I do not understand. Now, you know Petso from All Cast Irish Gamers. He loves trailers, loves analysing. Again, maybe you're in a similar vein. You love analysing them. You like combing through them and debating over what this means and what that could mean. Yeah, that to me blows my mind. I don't know how people can do that and then potentially then try and go and enjoy the final product after knowing, I would say, between 40 and 60% of the final story going in.
I think it is a good point, and I think in an ideal world I would stay away from them. I think if I'm so excited about a movie, I just want to see.
You want to see everything. Yeah, I get that.
Or, not even that. I take the risk that they're not going to spoil it. Stupid. Like, there's a lot of terrible trailers that, like, Terminator Genesis is like the 5th Terminator movie that came out years ago, and they give a mega spoiler in the middle of the trailer that it's insane. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. I'm Final Flame. I'll leave a link in the description for Rogtronic's channel, and what's your thoughts? It's been quite a while since the game's been out. Did you enjoy it? Do you agree with me, Final Flame, or do you agree with Rog? Was it good?
You don't have. Now you're separating people again. You don't have to like fall
Or
in
are
one
you
camp
in the
or
grey area in the middle where you liked some of it and you thought the rest of it was a pile of poo? Let me know. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.